What's up, guys? Welcome back to another Life with Lenoci in the living room, from the dome, from the heart. You know, a very personal episode because it's just you and me. It's just you and me listening. I doubt anybody is watching with a group of people. If you're watching with a group of people, you know, I hope that you're not expecting much. There's not going to be a big thing that happens. Episode 50, man. Episode 50, which you could argue is usually a big episode for people. People usually celebrate episode 50s with maybe a big guest or something. Let me shut my TV off. I realized that maybe the reflection is going off of the... It doesn't matter. I don't need to tell you that because it's off screen. We're letting the breeze come in. It's a nice night out in Los Angeles, California. Coming off of being under the weather a little bit. Can't decide. I got new little bushes behind my wooden thing back there. Excuse me. But you know, this episode this week, episode 50. Again, like I said, people do big episodes for their 50th episode or their 100th or every 50 episodes you usually have a big episode, maybe a big guest. You have a big guest that you interview with, and that's not the case. We're just in my place alone on a Wednesday night, so the episode's coming out tomorrow. So if you're listening to this, it's at least Thursday, but it also could be the future. It could be 2024. If you're listening to this episode, it's 2024. Welcome aboard, and we're glad to have you a part of the family of Life with Lenoci, and what a journey it's been, these 50 episodes. From the start to the end, you never know how it's going to go. You never know where you're going to end up. I would have to say I should go back and watch the first episode and think, oh, I wonder where I'll be 50 episodes later, which isn't 50 weeks later because I know I missed some weeks because of traveling, but here we are. And, you know, the one thing I was harping on, where's Mark when I need him to know if that's the right saying? You know, I've talked about a lot of this since my mom's passed, but living in the moment, that was one thing she kind of said before she left, and how hard that is to do. And I think about it all the time. Actually, I think about how I'm always in the moment when I'm on stage, and that is a very authentic, present moment to have with a bunch of audience members that you've never met before. I mean, some of them maybe you have met, but sometimes I don't ever think about it, and I don't think a lot of comedians really think about it as well. I don't think there's comedians out there who are actually, you know, I think they're thinking about their bits. I think they're thinking about the show. I think they're thinking about how they're going to do or how they want to do well. Or, you know, I think when you're younger, what if I don't do well? And then the older you get, you realize that doesn't matter if you don't do well. It's just nothing matters. But to be on stage recently in the last year or so, I feel like when I'm on stage, I'm not worried about what bit I'm going to do or what bit I want to get to or what bit I want to work out. I'm just kind of like, hey, in the moment, let's kind of go with what's happening, and whatever kind of bits I have or jokes I have, then that's where I'll go. That's wherever the crowd is pulling me is where I'll end up. And I feel like, you know, that's the most situation where I'm in the moment is when I'm on stage. But then I was thinking about living in the moment. You can't always live in the moment. Otherwise, you would have nothing to do tomorrow or the next day. I want to live in the moment, but I also have to plan shows for the future so I can be in the moment at that moment, if that makes sense. So, I mean, listen, you take it with a grain of salt. I don't think it's like every second of the day you live in the moment. It's just trying to be content with where you're at and what you have. And my message today is that I was in that moment today when the last 3 days I've taken some walks down to the park, which is like, you know, I'm about 10 blocks from the ocean. And then there's this park area. It's Pacific Palisades Park. It's beautiful. It's green. There's the palm trees, the beautiful bushes, whatever you want to call them. Millions of squirrels running around the park, and they're cool. There's people meditating. There's people sleeping. There's people napping. There's people eating lunch together. There's people on laptops using hotspots from their phone, working. There's people working out. There's old couples, a lot of old couples kind of just looking out into the ocean, kind of just enjoying the moment with a partner. There's a lot of different variations of people at different points in their life. But when you're at that park, they're all kind of, there's this understanding of like, if you look at someone, you maybe give them a little smile. You're like, not like a big smile, because that would be weird. That would be weird if I was walking and I saw another guy or lady and I went, you kind of do like, and for the people listening, you missed out on that because you're not watching, because there was a couple smile bits there. But it's kind of an understood thing that everybody is like, it's very soothing out there. You look at the ocean and it just, I grew up on the East Coast, and I would go, I'd see the beaches in South Florida are beautiful and they're warm water, but the sand, it's not that, it's pretty narrow. It's not a wide beach. It's not a long beach. But for whatever reason, when you look out there, you feel like the ocean isn't as big. It's not. Like, the Atlantic Ocean is not as big as the Pacific. And obviously, you can only see as far as you can see on each coast. But for whatever reason, there's a feeling that when you're on the West Coast and you're looking out at the ocean, it feels like it's forever, even more than on the Atlantic side. Because in the Atlantic side, maybe because that you eventually are going to hit land sooner than you would on the Pacific. But I don't know if that makes sense. This could be a totally dumb thought, but we won't know. We won't know unless we listen to it back, or you as the audience listening is like, wow, that is a dumb thought, but I love it. I love the thought, but that's a true thing. I looked out into the Pacific Ocean, watched the sun glistening off of the ocean, and I was like, wow, that is big. That's a big ocean. And then the mountains are in the background. And then you're sitting there going, what is it more that I need? What is it more that I need that I woke up today? I woke up when I woke up. I walked over there and I ran a little bit, and then I went down the stairs onto the actual beach and jogged a little bit, and just kind of, I closed my eyes and walked for a little bit while listening to Nirvana. And I was listening to the same song, and I actually wrote this down. I have it here. This was some of the thoughts. I go, have you ever listened to one song over and over and over, like 50 times? And I've done that a lot. Like I'll find a song, and then I'll just be like, I don't know what it is, but I'm so connected to this song for whatever reason. It could be an old song, it could be a new song, it could be oldies, a song from before I was born, but all of a sudden I'm just like high on it. And I'll play it like 50 times in a row. I'll play it for the whole workout of what I'm doing. For an hour straight, I'll play this song. And I don't even know all the words to the song still. Because it's like, am I listening to the song? Kind of. But it's taken my mind to another place. And it's motivating me. I think that's what it is. It's motivating me, or it's driving me in a certain way, or it's making me feel something in a certain way that I'm like addicted to it, that I'm like, I want to keep feeling this feeling that the song is making me feel. And I guess my question is, do you guys get that? Do you get that feeling? Is that something universal? Is that, well, a lot of people do that, or some people like, no, why would I do that? That doesn't make sense to listen to the same song. But I got to think that there's people who do that with songs as well. And I'm on that right now for the last few days. When I'm going on this walk or even driving in the car, I'm playing this certain song over and over and over, and it's not bringing negative feelings or thoughts to me. It's bringing positive thoughts and feelings. But you could argue it's kind of a darker song. It's a darker song, but I love it so much. And I know that you guys want to know the song, but I don't want to give that to you. I want that to be for me. And I want that to frustrate you. I want that if you're listening or watching, I want you to be frustrated that you don't know what the song is. That kind of makes me feel happy. That brings me joy. And I don't know if that's a bad thing, that making you annoyed or frustrated brings me joy. But, they always say, why would that is that an evil? I don't know. I'll tell you what. If you really need to know what the song is, if you comment on the episode, that's all it takes. If you comment on the episode, then I'll reply to you with what the song is called. And that's the only way I'll tell you. And if you're listening, if you would just have to go to YouTube, because there's no way for me to reply to you if you leave a 5-star review or something. There's nothing I could do about that. You'll just have to, maybe go to Instagram, or if you DM Life with Lenoci podcast, I'll tell you what it is if you really want to know. And then we'll know what type of person you are. Then I'll know that I affected you that much that you're like, I need to know, because it's going to bother me so much that I have to ask him. I have to comment on the YouTube or on one of his Life with Lenoci posts, which I don't go on there often. So, whatever. You'll figure it out. You'll figure out how to find out if you really need to know the song. You'll figure it out. I think I kind of said up top the artist. I think I already said what the artist was, if I'm not mistaken. I brought up, but what song from one of that artist. I'll give you a clue. If I didn't say the artist, which I believe I did, if I didn't, he is not alive anymore. And it's a he. And he is not alive. So, and if you want me to, I'll give you 2 clues. He died in the 90s. So there you go. And that's your clue. And that's a fun game. We had a fun game. So going back to walking on the beach, this was another thing I was thinking about. It's sometimes you can get to a place mentally where you are seeing things from a different perspective, which I think is probably arguably one of the harder things to do in life, right? We all have our perspective on something, and we tell ourselves that this is how we feel about a certain situation or subject, and what we know about that certain subject or situation, and we have an opinion about it, and then we say, this is what I think. And we're sold on that forever, right? And then if someone comes in with a different perspective or opinion and we don't agree with it, we will defend our point of view on it till death for the most part. I mean, can you honestly think about a situation where someone was arguing with you? Let's say it's an argument. Let's not say you're like learning. Like, if you're in college and a subject comes up and you think something about something, and then somebody who you believe or trust their knowledge tells you something about something, and then you're like, oh, okay, I understand now. Not that. Like, let's say something that you felt passionate about. Maybe it's politics, maybe it's sports, 2 things that people get very passionate about, and you really believed in what you were saying, but then somebody came in and gave you an opinion that made you go, oh, you know what? I never thought about it like that. I think I agree with you. How many times has that honestly really happened? And I think the problem is that most people, when they have a strong opinion about, the 2 examples I have here are sports or politics, the person they might be arguing with or disagreeing with, there's a little bit of a lack of respect for that person's thought process. And then that's why you're arguing. Because would you argue if Barack Obama was sitting in front of you and a certain subject came up that it's not stand up? I'm not going to argue with the guy. And if I had an opinion about a subject and he told me, well, actually, and gave me a different perspective on it, I would probably accept it a little bit more. So I think there's certain situations, if it's your peers, your friends, or family, there's a certain level of respect and disrespect you have for everyone in your life, right? Whether it's your mom, your dad, your brother, your sister, your best friends. You don't look up to them really. You know what I mean? Like rarely, I'm getting sidetracked, but you'll hear people be like, "Who's your hero?" And you're like, my mom and my dad." It's like, shut up. Shut the fuck up. It's not your mom or your dad. Get out of here. That's not your. It's not you. If they were your hero, you would never argue with them or disagree with them, and that's almost impossible because your parents are a shadow of what you are, and ultimately a worse version of you. By the time you're an adult in your late 30s and 40s, you're a more educated, advanced version of your parents. Because you grew up in a generation that's more progressive and has learned more and understand more and has dealt with more change that is acceptable to your society that you live in. Now, older people have wisdom that's separate, but you're going to clash with your parents on certain subjects. It's just a natural thing. Unless you're a fucking bitch. I mean, there's no way you could sit there and just agree with everything your mom or dad says forever. I just don't understand how you could do that. And if you did, I feel like you don't have a backbone. So that part, let's go back, is what I'm saying is, if there's someone you look up to that is a hero status player or person, you kind of will agree with anything they say. And which is also stupid in a way. Like if I'm sitting here right now and let's say it's LeBron James and arguably the greatest basketball player of all time. And I have all of my thoughts and beliefs about basketball. I know what I know and think what I think already about the past. And I sat down with him and I told him something and he disagreed and he explained why I was wrong and then told me why his point of view on that was right. Would I argue with him? Probably not, especially if it's about basketball. I'd be like, no, I look up to him so much in that world that I wouldn't. Now, what if it's stand-up? What if it's Dave Chappelle and he's telling me something about stand-up? I probably could have my opinion changed because it's Dave Chappelle. And he's accomplished so much in the art form that I work in that how ignorant would it be to argue with him if it was about something technical or business aspect of stand-up? Now if it came to an opinion about who we like or who we think is a better joke writer or stand-up comedian, you're never going to win because it's an art. And people see things differently when it comes to art. It's not a numbers game like, hey, he won this show, that guy lost this show. You know what I mean? It's not sports. You could kind of argue sports because there's numbers to back it. But the point being of this whole thing is, have you been in a position where you have been with someone that you view as an equal, a peer, parent, friend, family member, that if you were in a disagreement about something or anything, you would be willing to accept their perspective and change your positioning on that? I guess that's what I'm trying to say. And the point I'm bringing up is when I'm walking on the beach, you kind of go through the motions in your head of things that maybe you are dealing with or whether you're working on something or thinking about something or what you want to do next or where you want to go next in your life or what's the next plan. It was easier to see a different perspective on certain things that were on my mind when I was at the beach in a place that was very relaxing and soothing. And I identified that while I was walking down the beach, and I was like, well, this is very important that I do this more often. Now, what was it that I was even having that thought about? I don't even remember. But I just know that even this conversation I'm having with you guys, I feel like I've learned a lot just saying what I've been saying in the last 10 minutes. Although I'm thinking about it and thinking like, man, that could have been very confusing and a lot of word salad, as we've learned from Mark before. It could have been, but I'm not totally positive. I think it might have actually made sense and been intuitive. But do you know what I'm saying? Like, I've never like, I wish I was more malleable to be in a conversation with someone and not have such an ego about the way I see something. And I realize I do argue with a lot of my friends or family members a lot. And I do with my father a lot, and I think I get it from him about certain things that I'm like, and I don't know if I'm arguing because I don't respect the person's opinion on the matter. You know, like, especially when it comes to stand up, like, all of my friends are in stand up and they're working in it. But then sometimes I look at them and I'm like, well, I don't like the way he thinks, so he could be wrong, but I'm not seeing it from his point of view or his perspective, because you're not even thinking about how they came up into this world. So it's like, it could be, I thought about having a pole, right? Like, maybe like it's a wood, a trunk to a tree, right? Let's pretend you have a trunk of a tree. And as you paint on the trunk of the tree, you paint one thing on it. You have one subject. Let's say it's like, okay, everybody paint the forest or the ocean or a mountain with a lake. And you have 4 people paint on one side of the trunk, right? And then you put that trunk in the middle of your room on a stool or a table after it's done, but in a position that you could walk around it at all times, wherever you are in your house. And then that represents kind of life. Life is that log. And wherever you are in your house, you'll look at the log and see that image from a different perspective at all times. The mountain and the lake will look different wherever you are in your own place, which is a metaphor to life. And you can't ever see it from the way you envisioned it unless you actually work hard to do that, if that makes sense. So how am I supposed to take a situation and see it from a different angle if I don't actually consciously, I have a hard time with that word, think about what it would be like to, take in or perceive a situation from a different angle. And I think sometimes that can be detrimental to your mental health as well, though, because it's like, if you did that too much with your personal well-being, like your personal life, your personal appearance, or your personal, how am I perceived or looked at from other people in this industry or in my life, that could maybe ruin your self-esteem or hurt you a little bit. So I think there's pros and cons to what I'm saying. I think given someone else's situation, it's very important to kind of look at it from different angles. But also you can self-reflect and look at yourself and see, maybe it's okay to have flaws and identify them and be like, okay, if I look at it from this angle, that's, what am I doing? What am I doing? Why am I doing it like this? I could do that with my relationship. I could look at it from different perspectives and see what it looks like. Because when we have trouble in relationships, or we feel like we're not connected, or you are connected, we have a tendency, I think, humans, to look at other relationships and be like, I saw something in that relationship. I saw a screenshot of that relationship, whether it's on Instagram or Facebook or in person. I saw it. I saw this image, and I thought, well, I don't see that image in my relationship. How come I'm not doing that? But then you don't know what other images are surrounding the one image you saw, or how you were perceived, and maybe that the image that you're putting out there is something that other relationships envy, because they always say the grass is the grass. You always wonder, is the grass greener on the other side? Whatever. Now I sound like Bush when he was like, "You can't fool me twice," whatever, that speech. I think that we never know what's really going on in other people's lives. You see it from a perspective of how you think it's going. I think maybe I'm contradicting myself. I remember being around another couple. We were at a birthday party, and we observed another couple, and I remember me and another guy were like, there's something going on in that relationship. So we were observing a negative thing about that couple and thinking like, they don't seem like they're clicking. I hope it's never been presented that way with me in my relationship, but you never know. You never know. All you can really control is how you feel, and does it really matter what someone else perceives your situation as? I don't know. I don't know. It's interesting to think about that. I want to go over, I got some dates coming up. I know I go over this every episode, but I have to, guys. Upcoming shows. San Francisco is next Thursday, a week from today. And then I have Sacramento Friday and Saturday. I know that was a late ad, so not a lot of time. I hope that you guys hear it or see it. Sacramento, there's 2 shows. Small venue. Not many tickets available, but get your tickets. And then I have Fort Lauderdale, and that is May 22nd and 23rd. Still plenty of tickets left for the Monday, the 22nd, 23rd. There's probably like 10 tickets left. Not a lot of tickets. And then I have Austin the 24th on a Wednesday. And then Hollywood Improv will be June 16th. That's not on sale yet. And then Huntington Beach again in October 21st. Not on sale yet, but mark your calendar if you want in your phone. All of these tickets can be bought at michaellenoci.com. As well as some merchandise I have left that I'm trying to get rid of. I'm moving on from this merch. I will never do this merchandise again. So if you are a fan of it, make sure you purchase it. You can get it online. I'm just not feeling it, and I have a better idea for merch ideas coming up. So, I mean, a lot of shows coming up, and then after June, I think that I will be here in LA for all of June, and then I will put together some late summer, fall dates to really announce that and put that out there. So in the meantime, I'll be posting clips and putting them out there. But this was a good episode. I had fun, and I hope you guys enjoy watching this. I hope you enjoy these episodes where it's solo. Let me know. I'd like to hear your feedback on the solo episodes versus with Mark. I know that it's 2 different style episodes, definitely less silly. But it's just kind of what's on my mind, and I appreciate everyone that is listening or watching. It all helps. A like, a subscribe, a comment, it all helps so very much. So I appreciate it all, and I hope to see you guys back here next week or the following week. And happy 50th episode to me and everyone that has helped me. Have a good night.